Welcome to the SecureX Network Analytics SaaS or SecureX Cloud Analytics solution, formerly known as Salesforce Cloud, and with the integration with Secure Endpoint or AMP throughout the SecureX Orchestrator. In this small video, we're going to see how you can actually use SecureX Orchestration to do some automation between those two actual products. So first of all, part of the Salesforce Cloud or SecureX Network Analytics SaaS or Cloud Analytics, one thing to note is it's monitoring network based on actually collecting telemetry, either if the devices are on-prem or in the cloud. In this specific case, we're looking at SecureX Network Analytics SaaS, where we're monitoring an endpoint or remote users connecting to a specific network, and where the SecureX Network Analytics SaaS is actually doing analysis and detecting threats. At a certain point, you can actually use SecureX Orchestrator to actually probe the Salesforce Cloud or SecureX Network Analytics SaaS solution on a specific type of alarms, automatically detect if these alarms are actually being used, or we can use another mechanism to actually do a trigger for such a workflow. And then based on this orchestrator, we can actually do an automation or automated user isolation with Secure Endpoint, formerly known as AMP, to isolate these hosts and prevent the threat from actually spreading inside a network. And finally, we can use again a way to notify the teams, either using a ServiceNow or WebEx Teams. In this example, we're going to see WebEx Teams. One thing to note is this workflow I'm going to show is customizable, so you can actually configure the time frame you want to look at. You can automate it inside a scheduler. You can also specify the name of the event you're looking for. Maybe you're interested in certain type of events. You can create and customize the workflow to look only for specific events, not all type of events, and trigger based on that. So this is the Salesforce Cloud interface. That's the main dashboard. I'm looking for specific alerts, so I click on alerts. So once the alert page is here, I'm going to actually look at finding some interesting alerts that could be very interesting for me to trigger automated response on them. I can see that persistent remote control is something that is quite critical. And then, since it's quite critical, I want actually to trigger automation when I see some device is doing a persistent remote control and try to actually execute an automated response with AMP. So in this case, I'm going to actually customize my workflow to fit into this. So let's switch to SecureX. So that's my SecureX orchestration workflow. First of all, this workflow is customizable. Here on the right side, you can see I can actually specify which alert I want to look at and during which time frame. So if I wanted to do a date, I can actually make those change dynamically when I run that, which alarm type, and all the information. So just to give you an example, I can run this workflow now, specify that the alert name should start with persistent. Let me just copy the name as is. So that the name doesn't have to match 100%. You can have a section of the name, and I want to see only open alert, not closed one. The WebEx team room is, I already configured it based on my WebEx Teams information and room ID, and the time range is starting since it's 17 November, and then let's say it's ending 18 of November. That's the workflow itself. If I run it, the workflow starts executing all the actions one by one, and then it gets the alert name, the conversation, and tries to match based on that, see if the device IP have seen before, and use AMP for endpoint to actually do an execution. And it's going to do that for every single observation. If it finds that it's the same IP, it's not going to do the attempt of isolation again. So it's actually have some self awareness inside the whole workflow itself. So let's look at our WebEx Teams, since we should have a notification by now. So that's my WebEx Teams. I looked at my top room where this is actually happening. I can see that's the alert. This is the exact time range and inputted in here. That's the type of event, which is persistent remote control. And I see that IP, which is associated with that specific alarm that I've seen, which is the persistent threat. So that's a way to notify my team. It could be using ServiceNow or other techniques. If I switch back, one thing we can do with this workflow is, of course, I can make my changes persistent by changing here the type of alarm I want to run from, and also at the same time I can add a scheduler. As an example, I can add a trigger. Say I'm going to schedule this on a daily basis, and say this is based on a schedule, and specify daily, and then I can click save, and this will run daily. And then instead of running it myself, I could make it run daily, or I can actually trigger it on my own if I want to, once a day. It depends on how you're gonna actually configure this actual workflow. So with this workflow, we have seen how you can actually customize the workflow to actually do certain functions depending on the alarm you have from SecureX Network Analytics SaaS, and actually do actions with Secure Endpoint, depending if the endpoint is available in your endpoint solution or not. You can actually have it isolated. If it's an endpoint that agentless, then you get at least a notification that we have seen a bad activity from this host, but we don't have an agent to isolate it. So this is the video for this specified session. Hope this has been informative for you guys and you have enjoyed it. Please tune in for other videos.